This is the Men Refined podcast.
Hey friends, welcome to the Men Refined podcast. I'm your host, Rafael Sifontes. And in this episode, I would like to dig into the subject of young adult males in the college environment. Today, I have a good friend with me in the pod. His name is Sam Street. Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
We've been trying to record this for how long already? Since early in the year, maybe?
Yeah, February when we were on campus, and I wasn't ready to have like the certification, so we didn't do that, unfortunately.
Man, universities nowadays. I was hanging out as a family with Sam over early in the year. The university has great environment location to record voiceovers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we can probably take advantage of this, get in the room and then have a conversation. We couldn't make that happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Too many red tapes. I thought it was going to be easier by you being a student. Well, that was not the case. Were you able to get whatever certification they call it? So
Not
maybe that
yet.
can happen in the future?
Not yet, only because there's a lot more tasks that I needed to prioritize. But basically, it's just reading the series of how to utilize the tools that we already know how to use. But the university doesn't know that. So they want on paper that you know what you're doing.
I see.
In order for us to use their stuff, and then have to reserve the spot, and that takes about a week to do that. So thankfully school is out, so I have more things on my plate that are free that I can prioritize that, so I can start doing that this fall, because I want to start doing that as well. It's
really cool that you're here, and I wanna dig into that subject of young adult male, especially in the college environment. We have a 23-year-old, almost 24. He already went through college to the East Coast, to Party Town. He came back in one piece.
That's good.
I think his head still in the same place, his values still in the same place, and for us that was a tricky season, and I think for me also was. Because you hear so many things, and we have been exposed to so many things, and life, society, communities have been changing so quickly and rapidly. And our fear, I think, was, okay, how our son is going to be brainwashed. That was our main concern.
Yeah.
I think it is safe to say that he was not.
Good. Yeah.
Now, we've been trying to realize the why of it. Did we did something right? Did it just happen in a vacuum? Did God protected him?
Yeah.
Were the values that we provided to our son during his young age was a catalyst for his head to be basically in the same place.
Yeah.
Right? Through this, it created some walls around his brain to know what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's fake, what is truth, what is a lie. So I'm still wrestling with that. I think it's important to understand people my age, where the younger generation starts, and what is it that we do right, what do we do wrong. I think we're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
We have two young females coming up.
Yeah.
Now, one that is going to be soon going to college. So that's a big deal for us. And, one thing is raising a young man.
Yeah.
The other thing is raising a young woman. Two different monsters.
Yeah.
Two different monsters.
Yeah.
So based on that, I think data is overwhelming nowadays. As you know, young men are 3 times as likely to be addicted, 4 times more likely to kill themselves than women, and 12 times likely to be incarcerated. 70% of male could be homeless.
Yeah.
Right now in the States. That data is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a homeless problem in the States, even though I mean, you drive around, you walk around in these major cities in America, Denver, Los Angeles, Chicago, right? And you think about the homeless problem. I don't think we have a homeless problem. I don't think we have an opioid problem. We don't have an incarceration problem. What we have is a male suicide, homeless, and incarceration problem. And if any of other special interest groups were committing suicide at 4 times the rate of how males are happening, I think people should be talking about this differently.
Yeah.
I want to hear your take in college right now. What is it that you are seeing in college?
Yeah, I think
in 2023, 2024, how does that look like now?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot that's coming to my head right now from how I can give a perspective, and it comes in the theme of us guys. We're just prideful, and we're too prideful to surrender and ask for help. And I think for me that why I've been so successful just through 8 months of being back in school.
I want you to define successful, how you just trying to explain it now.
For me, what success looks like has been able to continue the path that I'm put on from the Lord through the guidance and the support of my friends and family. And that's the biggest key part, is not just from myself, where a lot of this culture produces self-growth versus the successful way truly is partnering with your friends and family and your community to be successful with that. And so I think from 4 years later of graduating high school in 2019 and being successful as a sophomore in college, now as 24, and working with younger generations or younger people, I'm so thankful that I can continue my journey on. And it starts with that of a lot of the reading the stats looks like a lot of these guys are just suffering pride and suffering, not knowing how to ask for help. And I've had to learn that the hard way. And I've learned that the earliest in my career from like 19, 20, 21, where I've been working for the past 4 years, and now that I'm back in college and the Lord is bringing me some new challenges, and it's the same theme of how can I ask for help, because I can't do this on my own, basically, because I'm limited on resources, I'm limited on time, I'm limited on education and knowledge, and the best way to be successful, to continue on, is ask for help with someone who has those key parts of resources or knowledge or connections or this and that. And the way that I've been continuing to move forward is by leaning on the people that I know and networking, and to be able to build up a network or build up a village to continue to push onto my success. And ultimately that just shows, I think, the reason of why we're designed to be in community and how the Lord designed that since Adam and Eve. And what I think, kind of to go back on with community, is that a lot of people in our generation, we could talk about that, of relationship, is when we look at two people, we're supposed to be in community and relationship, yes, but at the same time, the Lord made those two people to build community for all of us so that we can continue to grow the kingdom for the Lord and to continue to fight through what the seasons that the Lord has set us for. So
how are you seeing that in the people that you surround yourself with in your college journey? And let's tackle that question there. I also want to ask you to speak a little bit about your journey about working with the youth. For how long you've been working with the youth at this point?
I've been serving in high school and middle school ministry for about collectively 6.5, 7 years.
Okay.
So middle school, from my sophomore year of high school to my first year of college, essentially. And then that's like right before COVID, essentially. And then COVID, I transitioned into high school ministry with my 8th graders who are graduating in the next couple of weeks, which is super cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
How does that help you
Yeah.
in your college journey now? Do you think that has been or was an adventure or training, a path to get you mentally and physically where you are right now?
Yeah.
In college?
I think it gives me the perspective of continuing to learn how to communicate and interact with younger people. I feel like in my journey of life, I've always been in the middle between different groups of people and just how I was brought into this world. I was adopted when I was 5 years old. So I kind of feel, in a sense, I relate to a lot of these kids these days who are born in 2005, because that's kind of where my world really started, from being adopted in 2005, where I was born in 2000, essentially. And so I think for me, I think the Lord put me in a middle spot between my group of age of people that I get to interact with the younger people. And I have a heart and passion to lead and serve and disciple and help influence and grow people in their faith. And that has made noticeable in my life in high school, and I've continued to just seek that out through high school ministry, through middle school ministry. Part of my growth of being discipled and attending youth group and going to church, but also in the sense of serving and instilling that into the younger classes and the younger people. And so I think for me, it's allowed me to continue to learn how to communicate well and understand what's going on in their worlds and the culture, and how to almost dissect it for them to understand what's going on, because they're in this little bubble of their life on how do I do this, how do I do that, what's going on with multiple culture influences that's outside of the Christian community, and how do I navigate that with work, and what does work say in the culture versus what work says in the Bible and stuff like that, where I'm able to come towards them and partner with them to show them this is what I've done with my life, and it's been great and also challenging if I don't allow my work to be reflected of the Lord. And if I do it for myself, vice versa, if I do it for the Lord, he blesses the work and he shows me what we're really called to do, essentially. So I think a lot of it has helped me to build up and partner with the younger youth to continue to help them grow and be better and be successful, and that they can then turn around and do that for their generation and the generation below them.
Is there a challenge in your relationships currently in the college environment around campus? What are some of the things that you encounter? Like, first of all, was it what you were expected to be?
No, I think it was more of a culture shock in a sense of how do I balance so much relationships with different people, and just understand how to break the barrier behind them. I kind of came into college with the barrier of I'm this older person. I'm not sure if I'm going to meet people who would like to be my friend. I'm not this weirdo, but like this weird old dude who has been through life.
And you're living in campus, right? That's just for people to understand what you're referring to.
Yeah.
You're living in campus.
Yeah.
You are, how old you say you are?
I just turned 24 on Monday.
Turned 24. And you're hanging around and you're creating connections and mingling with other males of what age?
Yeah. They're averaging 19 and 20.
Wow. That's a huge gap.
Yeah. 19, 20, some 21, 22, but few that are 22 and 24.
Right.
So
what do you see?
Yeah.
What do you encounter? What do you see right now for these younger male?
Yeah.
How do they act with certain things?
Yeah.
What are they lacking?
Yeah.
What was shocking to you that you were not expecting?
Yes. I think the biggest thing to start off is this generation below me. I'm on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z, if that's correct. And then we're stepping into like Alpha and like Gen X, I think. Gen X is probably older. I don't know. Anyways, I've seen in this generation younger than me, for starters, is a huge cry out for growing their faith in the Lord. So that's really encouraging to notice that a lot of these guys are seeking out the Lord, but it's in a different way that I've never experienced. And it's a different way of like how do I interact in their way of how they worship. And I think the biggest thing is just their style of worshiping is far more charismatic and emotional than how I've grown up and how it's not in the sense of like I'm not emotional when I worship or charismatic. I am. We're charismatic people and we have a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
But it's a different sense of how do we worship.
How do we express it, right?
Exactly. And it's more of a sense of...
It's more of a control. It's more controlled.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they're more charismatic and emotionally invested without controlling that because they don't have an understanding.
Yeah.
Or probably because their faith is not strong enough,
in some ways,
because they have not been maybe exposed to a different kind of teachings, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stems from not loss, but like how can they interact with the Lord and how the Lord sees them. And I think it comes from like a lot of like, I don't want to say stage fright or I have to put up a show, but I think it comes from, I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it because you have to see it first. So it's a lot of charismatic, I would say. And I think for me, that kind of stems of, is it genuine or is it just for presentation?
How do you mingle that? How do you merge that?
Yeah.
How do you connect?
Yeah. And I think that comes in just to laying down your walls of how you worship and almost laying down judgment and just knowing that we're human and how do we almost in a sense put yourself in the way of you worship and allowing the noise, because it is very noisy when worshiping comes up. Where the church that we go to, our worship is very more tamed, controlled. There's some charismatic. There's some of that depending on who sings and stuff like that. But I think for me, I've put myself in that position to learn and understand, and I'm still figuring that out. And I think for me, it's just continuing to give them grace. And just also, I have a lot of joy to see that they're charismatic and serving the Lord versus they're not showing up and they're not wanting to serve the Lord. So that said, their fire for the Lord is evident. And that's really encouraging to see in the younger generation. At the same time, it's with how they interact with the opposite sex, with women and all these things. It's also, it's weird. There's like, I almost want to say it's in a position in this culture or the university I'm at Grand Canyon University, for example. It's almost in the term that they're kind of like the jockey Christians or the Chad Christians, if you will, of the culture. And that's where I'm like, I don't interact with that. I don't know how to be myself in a sense.
Can you explain that? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's almost like in a position of you're kind of too cool to be a part, in a sense of like, and there's just so much culture, like worldly culture that's produced in their faith. So it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of these people are, I would say, either new to their faith or have been in their faith for a while, but just are now really brought into it and through the environment that Grand Canyon produces. So it's interesting to see how the culture of what Gen X or Alpha is producing on how a lot of younger guys interact, because I have a hard time wanting to interact with a lot of the younger guys because I just don't know how to. Even like my high school guys that I'm graduating with or that they're graduating, they're not the sense of like the guys that that are at Grand Canyon, for example, or other Christian universities. So it's more just this freestyle, I think, free spirit, coolness that I just don't know how to interact, and I'm not that, and so I'm more of I'm in 24, so I'm having a hard time to keep up with them because that's the kind of the culture. But that's just a very small fraction of Grand Canyon that I see. But there's a lot of other fractions or other parts of Grand Canyon that brings in people who are who grew up in the Christian home or who are homeschooled, or a lot of missionary kids, which is really cool to see. And that's a
totally different
culture on how they interact with each other, with different people. And there's also a lot of very wealthy people as well. So a lot of that wealthy Christian lifestyle is produced in that. And they're kind of in the sense of there's not a care in the world because they've had to care. And so a lot of them are females as well, because the school is predominantly bringing in female.
What's the percentage?
I think for percentage, I would say more of the ratio is like 1 to 7, 1 to 8, 1 guy to 8 girls kind of deal, which is a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so what you're saying is, if you are a young man in college right now, your chances are very low that you will develop or you find a female. Very low.
Yeah. Because I think the biggest thing is that they're selfish. And that's a hard thing to say.
Who is selfish?
A lot of the younger generation, the guys and the girls as well. And I think
the girls as well, okay.
Yeah, I think they're very self-focused on just the culture and the lifestyle that they're living in. And I don't think a lot of them are really worried about marrying. Future. They're very present focused, and they're like, this is going back to that free spirit. Like, they're focused on what's right now. You know, how quickly can we get our homework done to go to the beach or go to the pool and just hang out and live life. And that's like the culture that Grand Canyon produces, and it's really fun. But that's in a sense of, it's in a bubble where once they graduate, they may not know what to do. And it's a little bit stressful with some, I've known some graduates who are prepared and are not prepared. And those guys or guys and gals are just going back home.
What's the difference? What do you see? What's the difference from those who you're saying that got prepared and the ones that did not?
Yeah.
What's the difference in their environment? What's the difference in what do you see in their mind?
Yeah.
What's different? Is there something palpable that you can express? Just
the preparedness, I think, starts with them understanding this is temporary, and they've surrounded themselves by a group of people who are in the similar mindsets of, we're here to work, we're here to have fun, but we're here to primarily get our degrees and start looking for jobs. And some of them are also planted and connected to church and are serving and are basically thinking forward while they're present. And I think that's in the sense of where I kind of step into play, that I think forward while I'm present, but also I've learned how to be present in a way that it's, because like for me, I've been going with work, and I've been working for the past 4 years at 3-ish different jobs that are like a job that you would have or someone else would have at your level that I've been exposed to at a younger age, just because I've been working since 13. So, and now in the sense of, that work lifestyle has gone away, and my work lifestyle is now classwork. And like, I have my still job with where I'm at in tech, but it's on a different level of responsibility. So learning how to be really adaptable and flexible with my schedule while being present and future focused. So I think a lot of the guys step into, or a lot of the culture is who are prepared, is that they've recognized this is a great season of life, but it's not forever, versus a lot of the people who are, I'm going to enjoy this life and build connections and be present and have a good time. I'll show up to some of my classes and I'll do the best I can, but their seriousness or their focus of the work part is not there. I think that's where some of them are trapped of, oh crap, what do I do now? Because like, graduation is here and I don't have a job lined up, but I have a lot of trips lined up.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think about relationships?
Yeah.
there's a lot of data that shows right now female young adults between the ages of 18 and 25 are looking towards males who are older than them.
Yeah.
Either 3 or 4 years older than them. The reason is because younger male or young men that generation between the ages of 18 and 25, they don't know how to talk to girls.
Yeah.
Because they may have talked once or tried to reach out to a female and they may have faced rejection.
Yeah.
And then that was a shock for them.
Yeah.
And they never tried again. So they've been keeping themselves in the world, in their own world. And now what happens is they step aside, they put themselves against the wall.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be rejected again. They don't know how to handle that rejection. And then the ladies keep walking.
Yeah.
They keep walking. They're not looking at those men who are against the wall.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know how to analyze or accept or handle that first rejection.
Yeah.
And they're looking for males who are more mature.
Yeah.
Who can handle a conversation.
Yeah.
Who can take rejection well and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And those guys are staying behind.
Yeah.
And they will stay behind.
Yeah.
And that's when you find 32-year-olds who have not been able to keep a female.
Yeah.
Who are not married.
Yeah.
And even if they do now in their late 30s, that's when they're going to have to start having kids if they want to.
Yeah.
And that's a different monster right there.
Oh, yeah.
That affects men psychologically.
Yeah.
And there's a psychological aspect of rejection when you don't know how to handle rejection for male. And you don't find yourself or put yourself around the right people.
Yeah.
Maybe older role model male who can actually speak into your life. And that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of things are coming to my head. And I think I agree on a lot of that. And I think to back that up, it comes with, I think it starts with the household and how they were brought up. I know for me, my dating life has never existed. Not because I'm afraid, or it's just more of a sense that the Lord is protecting me. Because there's a lot that I'm still processing and going through in my life. So for me, I am a people person. And as you can witness at school and at church, I bring people, I bring community. And I think I have a lot of charisma, and I think I can have a lot of confidence to talk to women. And
do you see other men, the young men that you put yourself around?
Yeah.
Do you see them interacting with females?
Yes, and in a lot of sense, a lot of the social kids, they do, and I think it's in the sense of, it's not how I interact with women. It's more of a sense of, I think that's free spirited of like the cool kids or like the jocks, if you will, for just the environment that I'm in, versus I'm an intentional person. I am future focused. I know what I want. And until I find that similar or exactly, I'm not going to necessarily waste my time. Where a lot of the guys, I think part of that comes with A, how they've been raised, B, technology interrupts a lot of our connections. And someone who works in technology, I'm almost in the sense that I want to get rid of my technology because I want to bring back genuine relationships again. So technology comes into step. Pen and paper, write that number down and call them, or to go see them, drive them up. And I think that part of just technology affecting, and I think a lot of it is comparison. A lot of guys and girls compare each other to each other because we're exposed to social media. And so I think if I'm not this guy or this girl or that guy, then I'm not going to be selected, or I'm not going to be able to get a date or this or that. And in a sense, I've felt some comparison in the sense of my age. Like, I'm 23 years old. Which girl that's 18 years old, fresh off the boat, if you will, a freshman, wants to talk to me? And I'm surprised that a lot of them enjoy conversating with me, because I'm coming in the sense of I have a lot of social intelligence.
Right.
I'm like socially and
you've been around.
Mature. I've been around.
You've been dealing with relationships for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you've been exposed to have relationships with different individuals at different stage of life.
Yeah. And
right?
I think it comes to that part of not a lot of people are just getting themselves out of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Where if someone looks someone similar to you, that's where they'll stay. Where for me, I've been able to be open to a lot of diversity, a lot of cultures. And I mean, from my family, I'm one of 12, and I have a sibling from India and China and Africa and foster care, and we have a lot of trauma and a lot of differences in backgrounds. And so I think a lot of people are not comfortable to getting out of their comfort zone to try new things and be risky. Where for me, my whole life has been risky from the beginning, where, my birth mother giving me up at birth and traveling all the way from Europe to the US, and then living in a family of 12, and who's the middle child. So like, how do I...
Okay, who is the middle child?
Exactly. That's me.
You're the middle child.
I'm the middle child of the family.
12. Okay.
And so I think that's where...
So are you number 5 or number 6 or number 7?
7.
Is that considered the middle child?
It's considered me and my... Well,
it's hard, right?
It is. It's hard who you look at it, because I share the middle with me and my sister Molly.
Okay.
And we're great, and we've had a lot of life. Mm-hmm. So I think she could say that as well. But like, for me, as the middle child, I think that's kind of foreshadowing what the Lord has done in my life.
Yes.
Playing the middle ground and the bridge of between this and that, and that's this person to that person.
That's good.
So I think for me, I've been through a lot of risk. I've been through a lot of life. And I've been through a lot of challenges, just because I'm a resilient person, and that the parents that I have has created me to be resilient, and the life that I've lived has created me to be resilient. And ultimately, it comes down to having to humble myself and understanding where I'm at in my life and who can help me to get to where I want. And that starts with the Lord. And if I'm not right with the Lord, if I'm not living my life for the Lord, I will become worldly and selfish, and I've seen what that looks like, and it almost killed me. And so I think a lot of the relationships factors is a lot of the guys are not confident enough to be risky, or not bold enough to follow up. And that's the biggest part where our generation doesn't know how to do, is how to follow up and how to be bold. I've been through a lot of great friendships recently, where now I've casted this wide net this last year of meeting a lot of women and a lot of guys and a lot of friendships and groups, and the Lord's been naturally bringing that net smaller and closer, and now have a strong community of friends that are mixed with guys and girls, and I can call them my life group and my community. And now I'm processing through the summer of who do I continue to be friends with, and who do I need to move on from, and how can I be intentional this next fall as I step into more leadership, as I step into continue to curate the lifestyle on campus, and who can I be bold with? And that's like the prayer that I'm praying for this fall, is who do I need to be bold with? Who do I need to move on? And how can I help others to push that as well? And the more that we're bold, the more that we're intentional, and I think that part is intentionality is not really set in this culture, because a lot of people will have a lot of group of friends, and they're here for the crowd and here for a little time.
For the moment.
Mm-hmm. Where I'm intentional. I'm future focused. I'm lifelong, creating friends and relationships and connections. And a lot of people are seeing that. Like, how are you doing that? How are you able to be intentional with everyone you literally meet? And it starts
Right. How do that... Yeah. What do they say?
Yeah.
I want to expand on that, because you say a lot of people are seeing and are asking questions.
Yeah.
What are they seeing, and what are their specific questions they're asking?
Yeah. They're seeing the intentionality that I bring in on campus is because I've been that person who's not been in the crowd, who's not been favored, who's been bullied socially. And so for me, from a younger stage, I've always prayed, if I'm ever in a sense of influence or leadership, I want to seek out that furthest person and be intentional with them and grow close to them. And through that, my family's been through Young Life, and that's the kind of mission that the Young Life has, and through ministry, and now just for building a community, that's the goal, is who can I reach out to that hasn't been reached out first, and continue to build that relationship and seek them out, because that's what the Lord did. That's how Jesus did on his time on earth. And
so what do they ask? What are the specific questions? I want to know that.
How the consistent question is, how do I know so many people, and how do I know their names, and how can you be so intentional and not forget their names, essentially? How do you know everyone's life?
So they ask you, scale? How do you know so many people?
Yeah.
How do you know their names?
Yeah.
And what was the other?
And how can I be intentional and like understand who they are? Do they say the name intentional, or do they use another word?
I
think they either use intentional, or how do you know about their life? So it's about their life with the name.
How do they see that when they ask you? Are they asking you because they are they want to have what you have?
Yeah.
Or because maybe they are curious about seeing somebody who is able to, 1, know more people that they know, and 2, because they see somebody, in this case you, who is able to connect, not just to know of, but to connect. More intimately. You know their names, you know how they struggle, you know their day-to-day life. What do you think?
I think it's all that. I think they're seeing how I'm well with people and how I interact, and they're curious of like, how can I do that? Because like
do you think they want to get there?
Yeah, I have some of my close friends, in particular, are like, they question like, Sam, why do you do that well? How do you do that well? I want to be that way with my friends. And in a sense,
what do you say? What do you say to that?
And the answer to that, it starts with,
are you writing a book or a thesis, or just giving them a 1, 2, 3 or something like that?
I'm just giving them literally 1, 2, 3. And I think this starts with understanding who you are, where you come from, and having a pure desire of loving people. And loving people the way that God loves
but how do you teach that? Because they want to be teachable. I think they're looking for somebody to teach them to get there. How do you, in the setting that you are right now? Because every setting is going to look different. In the setting that you are right now, how do you teach that to these young men?
I think it starts with physically being intentional, being able to grasp details of their life and understand their names, and being curious. And it's hard to teach curiosity when you're not curious. And it's hard to teach learning how to love people when you don't know how to love people in the way that the Lord calls us to love people. And it's hard to almost lay yourself down so that others can grow and others can be flourished, in a sense like how Jesus did. And so I've really the Lord's kind of shown me, how do I love well? How do I serve others well? And how do I help build people up? Because that's kind of why I'm going back to school, is how can I be a developer of business, of operations, and of people? And it starts with people. And it starts with curiosity of what's going on in their worlds. How can I help them grow? And if they're flourishing, then I'm successful. And that's truly my method of learning how to love and connect people well. And it's just, the Lord's given me so many skills and desires and passions, but it starts down with the people behind that.
Have you thought about being intentional, right? We're talking about intentionality so much.
Yeah.
But have you thought about being intentional and writing these quote unquote steps down.
Not yet. I need to,
because I think this is important work that you probably are doing by inertia.
Yeah.
One, but I think it's important work to replicate.
Yeah. That's
to
so
teach
cool.
others.
Yeah.
To create some sort of a program.
Yeah.
Hence can be replicated by others.
Yeah.
The way you talk about these experiences and how you are interacting with a younger generation than yours, it makes me think of processes that can be learned and implemented to teach others to tackle a certain generation.
Yeah. And it starts with again, I agree with all that. And I'm like praying one day I'd love to write a book. I'd love to teach people, coach people. And as I'm business focused, I'm also relationally focused. And so like I'm playing this weird like world of like, I love business. I want to grow business and have my own businesses, but I also love the people behind it. And I know the Lord will bring that one day. But all that said, the first start is understanding where you're at and how can you grow from there. And if you don't take inventory of where you're at, you won't grow because you don't have inventory of where you're at all. So it's the same way of like, you won't know how I'm doing if I don't reach out. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I reach out. So you can keep tabs in what's going on.
Or the other way around.
Correct.
Because it needs, I believe, and I know that it needs to go both ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? I have let go of certain relationships.
Yeah.
I don't think that the let go will be the right word.
Yeah.
Forgive my English. My English is not very good looking at times. So my vocabulary sometimes is very limited.
Yeah.
Because English is my third language.
Wow.
But what I want to say is sometimes you put an effort towards a specific relationship.
Yeah.
And if it's not reciprocated,
you move on.
I stop.
Yeah.
And I move on. Okay. And I'm talking about relationship with other men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many years back, I kept pushing. I kept pushing and kept pushing.
Yeah.
And what happens is, and I'm sure this happens in the younger generation even more.
Yeah.
But what happens is you get, your mind gets out of whack.
Yeah.
Because we're still human.
Yeah.
And we love one interaction and we love acknowledgement. And we want how do you say?
Reciprocate?
Yeah, you want people to reciprocate. See, I'm telling you, my vocabulary is very limited.
Yeah.
So we want that people to reciprocate somehow.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to do something for you and I expect something back in return.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean by this. What I mean is that, hey, man, how you doing? Send that quick text.
Yeah.
And I want to respond. And I say, hey, you want to get together? And let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't happen to be an everyday thing. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes between men, I hear at times the concept of, oh, well, I have this relationship with this guy. Yeah. He's my buddy. I haven't talked to him in 5 years.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we get in a phone call and I don't know. It's like we got back to like it was yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
I really don't understand that.
Yeah.
I really don't understand that. I have not processed that. I have not experienced it. For me, I think that is a lie for me because I have not experienced that. On the contrary.
Yeah.
If I've been in this kind of relationship, I feel that, okay, first of all, I'm trying to figure it out why we stop talking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we stop talking, whatever, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Life happens. But if we stop talking and now we're talking, okay, how do we go from here?
Yeah.
Do we want to reconnect at that deeper level that we had 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Or we just touch and go and that's about it?
Yeah.
Because I really want to spend my time in people that really want to also spend the same amount of time in their relationship. Because relationships need to grow.
Correct.
And I believe in tribalism. I believe in community.
Yep.
Because I believe on that takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes effort from both parties.
Yeah.
If you want to be in a relationship,
Yeah.
you need to spend the time if you really want to be in that relationship.
Yeah.
So that's just how I see things.
Yeah. And I think to like sum it up, the words that comes to my mind is the biggest thing is vulnerability, transparency, consistency, and dedication.
Yeah. And that takes time.
It takes time.
All back to time.
And it's all time.
Now, do you have the time to put into it?
That's a good question.
Welcome to the new world, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem nowadays.
Yeah.
It's a huge commodity for many people.
Yeah. And I think it just comes down to sacrificing what's more important.
Yeah.
I started this year at school knowing and being involved with so many groups and so many ministries.
Yeah.
Where at the end of the semester, I have one group, I have one ministry, and I have one church.
Tell me about it.
And so when I started this semester of just trying to find people and friends and all these things, I knew some people, but they really challenged me to find my own community. And it was a good push.
Okay.
So I met a lot of friends in my classroom, and a lot of my classmates are freshmen. So a lot of my audience were freshmen and some sophomores.
That's challenging, right?
And it's challenging because it's like, again, I'm this 23-year-old with the beard.
Yeah.
Back then, and
these kids, they can't even grow beard, right?
Exactly. or this pretty brunette who's 18, and I'm like, how do I
barely have hair under their armpits? Like, come on, buddy.
Exactly. So how do I even like interact to not be weird or positioned as weird? And so a lot of my groups were formed with a lot of freshmen.
Okay.
And I immediately took myself out because I knew if that's going to be my worldview, I'm not going to last long.
Wow.
Because either they're super toxic, don't know how to be relational, don't know how to go through hard conversations and be transparent.
Wow.
And don't know how to be bold in some ways. And everything is just so emotional and so present focused. And we got to do this or we got to do that. And we got to be involved with so many ministries. And a lot of the ministries around Grand Canyon and the Valley are very charismatic, and I'm just not a charismatic, emotional worshiper.
Okay.
I'm more service, intentional disciple maker. So if I kept with that group, A, the group no longer exists. B, my time at Grand Canyon would have been so far. It's not where it's at today.
And you said that you removed yourself.
I removed myself.
How long does that take for you to acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Does it happen super quickly?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How quickly?
So with me,
a few weeks?
I'm very, like, I can observe and reflect super quick to where, like, ooh, that interaction is not going to go well, or that interaction I had did not go well. And I reflect super quickly and in a way, a sense of how do I then respond in this situation. I had a situation with a friend. I was interested in her, and she's really cool, and she's very beautiful. And I don't think she's just had the experience or interactions with someone who's a lot older and who's more mature and who's intentional with what they want. And I kind of came off very. What was
the difference in age?
She was 18. I was 23 at that time. So about 5 years.
Okay. Generally, what do you think the 18-year-old girls are looking for?
At that time, they're looking for fun. They're looking for the guys who are cool and who are jockey and who are the mean guys, if you will. And the guys are going to give them attention for what they want at that moment.
Attention, okay.
And I think it comes down to their spiritual maturity and their growth in their faith in the Lord. And if their intentionality is to find a Christ-like guy, they're going to look for a lot of the characteristics that I have. And so I think with a lot of the characteristics that I have, I came in a little bit too strong, and that's when I have to learn how to pull back and like self-reflect and like how do I give a little bit and give a lot in some sense. And so essentially, she didn't know how to respond in my sense.
I see.
And so essentially, she kind of just removed herself away from me.
I see. What do you learn from that?
You don't. For me, I've learned the most of like, okay, I have to move. I need to find older friends.
Okay.
B, I need to find people who are really
more mature
in their faith.
Yeah.
And wants to be able to have conversations that are hard.
Yeah.
And this group specifically was just super young and just does not want to have those tough conversations. Where for me, I like to go in the deep end and start having those conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all that said, I think I've had to, how that dwindled down to this one group is having faith in the Lord and seeing the guys and the girls who are consistent in my life. And you also put yourself in the position of where you're at. I'm a student leader, and a lot of my close friends are student leaders because they are mature. They're forward thinking. They know how to interact with other people. And so a lot of my close groups that I've created that are very small are people who lead and who want to help grow other students and people. So so I've had a big group. Now I have like one small community that consists of two other small groups. And and I think it just starts with reflection, where you're at, what do you want, how can you grow, and who consistently shows up in your life, and then start destructing those walls and becoming more vulnerable with them and being transparent and building that safeguard. I've been through a lot of challenges this last semester, partially a big financial stress on my end that I've had to kind of expose my group of friends and kind of create that boundary and that security of like, hey, something may happen. I just want you to know, don't worry about, don't necessarily worry for me, but in a sense, be prepared because I may need help. And that question of asking, I may need help. And the financial stress happened, and just the swarm of community that came to help me here and at school was just more than I've asked for. Of just the support, the prayer, the risk, and the just the guidance. And so I think just that start of how can I be vulnerable, how can I build that safeguard, and just see who you're around with, and just go from there.
In closing, how can my generation?
Yeah,
I'm almost 50, man.
You look good. I love it. Yeah.
Well, you made my day, but it's every time I think about it, I cringe. How my generation can help your generation? What is something that you think your generation needs from my generation?
Yeah.
What will be helpful?
I think the biggest thing is showing up and being consistent and giving us grace and giving us like walking one step with us. And that's a lot to ask, but it's the discipleship of what the Lord calls us for. And so for me, I've been praying to continue to be discipled, whether that's with guys here or out there, and the Lord's brought both on both ends. And so I'm so thankful and humbled for that. But I think for the guys who wants to show up and wants to be grown, it's that consistency of discipling and being parallel to what we're doing and pushing us. But I think just having a lot of grace is the biggest part, because we're going to fail. We're going to mess up. We're not going to be bold. Our confidence is going to go down or up. We're going to be cocky and, all these things. So I think the biggest thing is grace and consistency is, I think, for me. But other guys could be different with what they're going for. Could be accountability, which is another part. It could just be once, like one call a month or whatever. But I think the biggest thing is consistency and grace, I would say.
Is that something that exists in campus somehow?
Yeah. There's a couple ministries that I've been able to meet with one specific person. He's much more older. He's like in his 70s. And he has a ministry with his grandson who's in my grade. And his ministry has been super cool to see how, as a ministry retention, it's called Koinonia. They started the ministry.
Shout out to Koinonia.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a really cool ministry that started by this kid named Carson. And it started off by, it was for a couple months, like September, October. It was small. It was consistent. It was a group of like 50 to 100 students. And then October, November, and December, it rapidly blew up. And they're consistently having 300 to 500 students. And at the end of their first semester, they had about 500 people in one house. And now the spring, they're consistently having 3 to 5 or 6. For a college ministry like that is amazing to see. And so Carson's grandfather, Mel, him and I, we've been meeting since February. And we have a similar story just of our insecurities and our downfalls, and starts with that loss and being able to see the Lord just give us a lot of redemption and grace and forgiveness. And I think that's the biggest thing of how can us guys be vulnerable, and how can we be vulnerable to each other to open that wall up. And it's just really cool to hear from an older man of just his sins and just how he's been able to be transparent about it and be exposed of it in a righteous way, to then humble himself to get the help that he needs and continue to do that to other guys. So I'm so thankful for, at least for Mel and Carson. And Carson's out here in Parker, and he's continuing Koinonia in Colorado for people in that community and at Grand Canyon. And then in the fall, it'll bring back up. But that said, there's a couple guys that I've been able to meet. And then as a student leader, I have an older gentleman that I report to at Grand Canyon. And we get to grow closer. And I also have sought out other older men at campus. I'm great friends with the dean of students at campus, and we've been getting coffee for the past month, or for the past few months, which is awesome. So, and
you are also going to be running for?
He wants me to run for student body president for the fall.
Okay, is that something public, or I shouldn't say anything?
I mean,
about
it's
yes
will
you go for it?
I'll be running. I'll be trying to run this fall, and I am preparing a business plan for that.
Okay, it's good.
And
I'm gonna send some ladies your way. How about that?
Yeah,
and I'm gonna make sure that they recruit others.
Yes.
Okay, so you can have some votes.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, it's public, but it's Grand Canyon has their own ways to how to prepare and be quiet, but like I can say, oh yeah, I'm running for the fall.
That's great.
But I won't be able
I think
to be
you will be
intentional.
a great addition to it.
Yeah.
I think you'll do great. And
Yeah.
I think that you can influence a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just because the way you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much, Sam, for stopping by here into the studio and to my studio/office. We're very grateful for you.
Yeah.
And man, we'll wish you the best.
Yeah.
That the Lord will continue to use you.
Yeah.
Where you are.
Thank you.
That many blessings will be poured out onto you, and you'll be able to bless many.
Yeah.
You have no idea what kind of experiences you're expected to encounter this coming season, in your own season. But I think good things are going to come out. I think people are going to start reflecting more, especially because you're there, you're in the midst, right? And they're asking questions, and that's great. People that ask questions, they're the best people, right? Because they're seekers and they want to learn more. So that's always a good indicator of the people that you surround yourself with. If people are asking questions, that means you're doing something right.
True. That's so true.
So,
and I gotta give myself a lot of credit that I don't, but I'm so thankful to be here, and I'm excited to see what future potential episodes can come up. And a lot of my experiences is genuine, and it's not to bring anyone down, but to challenge this generation and to challenge what's going on and how can we continue to grow as brethren in Christ. And so I hope it blesses somebody.
Absolutely. And that's really the hope of each episode. We just want to bring a content that can be helpful, that people can learn from other people's experiences. I don't know it all. I'm learning a lot as this project continues. Sometimes we had a season of a dead space, and that's just because we're kind of like reflecting on next phase. And I think young adults is extremely I'm a bit passionate for it because I mean that's the future, right? That's the future. And just to close, I'll say when I was younger, I surrounded myself with men older than myself. Always. especially in my, my late teens, 17, 18, 19, 20s, I was always surrounded of people older than me, people in their 40s and 50s. At this point in my life, I still surround myself with people that are older than me. And there's a lot to say to that.
Yeah.
We want to learn from the generation that paved the way. That is ahead of us. We want to learn from them and get the best wisdom that we can be. Trying to be a sponge out of everything that we surround ourselves and be able to filter, obviously. So I like when you say that, you cast a wide net and you start picking up the pieces that net grabbed, and now you have one thing that you're focused on, and that I think that's important. That's a lot of wisdom.
Thank you.
And that wisdom only comes from God. So I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
We're grateful for you. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
I will.
God is good, man.
Yes, he is all the time.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.